Welcome to another episode of Africa's Big Switch. On this episode, we are joined by Delz and Relay. Delz is a serial innovator with expertise in economics and product design. He has a master's degree in marketing management, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Delz actively leads Astra and Agrify, two innovative ventures at the forefront of integrating new technologies into traditional industries. At Astra, Delz is pioneering a new way to design clothes using artificial intelligence and discover them in virtual reality, enhancing the retail experience and reducing waste in the fashion industry. Meanwhile, Agrify focuses on decarbonizing the agricultural value chain through regenerative intelligence and carbon microfinance. This aims to improve farmer resilience and farmer incomes. This is Africa's Big Switch. Hi again, and welcome to another episode of Africa's Big Switch. My name is Bolaji Akinlali, your host for the podcast, and today I'm here with a very special guest, Delz and Relay. Hi Delz, how you doing?
I'm great, man. It's great to be speaking to you, Bolaji. Thanks for having me.
No, the pleasure is mine. Delz is a really, really cool guy, and you guys would you see that in the podcast. Very unique ideas, very innovative technology ideas. But I'm specifically interested in one of his startup solutions. But before we kind of get into that, Dels, could you perhaps tell us a little bit about yourself and about your background?
And thank you, Bolaji. So yeah, I come from a background in studying economics at Covenant University in Nigeria, and then I came to the UK to study marketing management at the University of Birmingham, just because I grew bored of the, overly theoretical nature of economics, and then studied masters in innovation as well at the University of Warwick, and just put all that together into trying to figure out how can we just come together and build innovative ideas that are not just applicable not just in Nigeria but also globally, and that's what we've been doing for some years now. Yeah.
Question. So transitioning from economics in Nigeria to masters in innovation and now to tech, what's the drive behind this direction?
Yeah, so I studied economics, but it was very boring. There's a lot of talking, and someone I met used to always say that like macroeconomics is a lot of like voodoo. You can't really predict the future. I think microeconomics, which is more about like day-to-day human beings, like selling products, solutions, how people buy and sell, is a bit more interesting. So that brought me down the line of like, what is the microeconomics of today? What people use the most, and they use their phones to trade, and that's pretty much modern day technology. So that's how I found myself in this, let's try and see what we can build and learning more about problems to solve.
Incredible. No offense to the guys that do macroeconomic share, because you you literally just called the profession boring. Um, uh, but yeah, fair enough. So you've gone from so just I just like did some research about you, and it seems like you've gone from building Astra to Waves and now to Agrify. So building very innovative technology solutions for different markets and for different users. Um, so I guess can you just walk us through that journey of your tech entrepreneur I guess life, I guess post uni, post
Yeah.
masters in innovation. What has that journey been like for you?
I don't want to be go on some boring, long-ended talk, but I'll try to keep it as short as possible because it's been a long time. But to come back to the UK to do when we finished, we didn't back then they were sending us back to Nigeria in like 3 months. And there was something called this graduate entrepreneur visa where if you had an innovative idea. So at that time, the first idea was something called Sizzle, and it was Deliveroo for custom fashion. So the whole concept was if you had a wedding, a Nigerian wedding, there was no shop you could go to and buy your trad or agbada. And then I made this connection with like the Indians and all the other many ethnic groups that could not just go into a shop and get customized clothing. So we thought like, okay, what if you could order someone to your house? They could take your measurement, and then you can send your measurement to tailors. They can make stuff for you and send it to you. So anything you shop on the app will be in your size. And it was a great idea. I got a visa to come back to the UK to work and build that idea. And then about maybe 2 months or a month to launch was COVID. So something I've been working on for
Wow.
3 years became useless because all the advisors we had said, thought everybody thought the world had changed forever. Remember
Wow.
how COVID was during lockdown? Everybody thought like, so
Yeah.
I was back at back at home and thinking like, you've put in so much effort into building something for 3 years. Now everyone is saying it's useless, that no one is ever going to go to anybody's house again. Because to take someone's measurement, you actually have to come close. People that were doing like Uber, they were maybe dropping the food in safe places and all of that stuff. So there and then I just had to think like, what's the business model that cannot be disrupted by COVID? And the metaverse came into play, and that was like 2020 lockdown. Everybody was home, so we started thinking like, what if we could teleport people to different virtual stores with like virtual reality to
Wow.
go shopping, and then receive the clothes at home, so you don't have to go anywhere. And that was when Facebook was Facebook. It wasn't even Meta yet, and just threw me down this whole line of like recruiting some of like the most amazing, talented people to build out our MVP. We got a grant from Epic Games that make Fortnite. We got grants from Meta. We raised millions, but the metaverse is still so ahead. So that idea is more like it was so ahead that till today, VR adoption is still very low, but we still think it's coming. So we sort of put that on the side, and then we've worked on, because of the whole thing of you have an idea and then a pandemic disrupts it. I could not just work on one idea because I was always paranoid that something could happen. Maybe they'll come and ban VR headsets. Then I have to start from scratch again. So on the side, I was working on Waves, and Agrify was still bubbling in the background. Waves was pretty much just trying to tokenize sounds. You can generate a beat using AI. Just in another things that like could not be disrupted by pandemics. Like you can generate a beat using AI, save that on the blockchain to show that I came up with it, and then sell that to people that want to maybe have podcasts. If maybe your podcast needs like an intro sound, or like a producer is looking for inspiration, or like a musician is looking for inspiration, that sort of thing. And then Agrify at the time was just trying to get produce from African farmers to these corner shops we have in London, New York, where there's a lot of Nigerians. Like if people move to new cities in Canada and someone opens a shop there, how do they source the produce that comes to them? So that's how we're thinking about Agrify then. So yeah, that's been the journey in terms of the products we've been building so far.
Wow. Do you know what I like about your story? I like how, like, when you spoke, it was just so honest. It was like, look, life happened, so we pivoted, we planned this, it didn't work, so we had to back up and this is real. Like this is the life of a startup entrepreneur, like
Yeah,
behind the scenes. Because quite often when people see the finished product, we often assume that, wow, like how did this guy even have the idea? But it seems like the idea has kind of been formed and is still being formed anyway.
yeah.
Um, but Agrify, which is one of your really interesting companies, and it's the one I really want us to talk about today. Can you tell us about what Agrify sets out to solve today? What challenges that Agrify sets out to solve today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the core problem here is that farmers in Africa lose $30 billion annually due to low yield caused by climate change. And if you see how the current solution to climate change in the world right now, like from major corporations, is that let us plant trees, let's plant trees for climate change, or they have these machines that suck out carbon from the air. And our thesis here is that, in Africa, we contribute the least to climate change. Like we don't even have these mass industries. We don't do any of these like very, very polluting activities.
Mhm.
So why is it that we have to suffer the most, and the sector that employs the most people is crippled annually? Because we should be feeding the world if we can get African agriculture to operate at full scale and operate firing. But the picture of Africa is a hungry child. So even back when I was studying economics, there was this whole concept of like if you can solve or build Africa's competitive advantage and scale that, then you can solve a very, very huge problem for Africa. So I've been thinking for many years, like, what is a solution that can, lift Africa? Because the government is not going to do it. They see it as a very risky sector. There's flood, there's droughts. A lot of agri-tech companies wind up because of how unpredictable yield is. You can't really predict harvest, so what we're trying to do at Agrify is to tie income of farmers to carbon capture, because the original way to capture carbon is to plants, crops need carbon to survive. So how can we train these farmers on how to like improve their organic carbon content, organic soil carbon, by like just, and now what we have is like an app that teaches them in local languages and pidgin based on the analysis of their farm. We give them a score and tell them what to do to increase that score. And then we aggregate the carbon captured by different farms and sell that to corporates that are looking to offset their carbon emissions. So that is AgriFound. It's just pretty much trying to make sure we put money back into the pockets of the people that are most affected by climate change, which we believe are African farmers.
Incredible. That is incredible because at work I had this talk on carbon pricing and
Mm.
how I guess a lot of countries are doing carbon taxes, are why they're doing carbon taxes and
Yeah.
carbon pricing, and also looking at the emissions trading scheme. And this circular approach of these people are the most affected. So how do we make sure that they are compensated, but also like make it a business model where it's attractive? Is really, I really like it because I think if it's beneficial to someone, if it makes investment
Mhm.
sense, people will invest. Like if it makes sense, people will invest. That's what I believe. So this is really cool. And I guess a question on top of that is now that this is the plan, this is the vision, what do you think are some of the challenges that you've encountered or would potentially encounter with building this out? Because one of the things that you actually mentioned already is unpredictable yield, right?
Mhm.
So maybe that's one, or maybe there are others. So the question again is I mean, what are the challenges do you think you will face as Agrify or Agrify will face, or what challenges have you faced as Agrify in rolling out the
Yeah.
solution?
Yeah, I'll be honest, like the challenges are many. I'm sure you expect that because we're trying to, first of all, the mindset we have to attack, like in terms of this is actually a suitable source of carbon sequestration or carbon capture. Um, People just feel it's better to build machines and be sucking carbon out of the air. That doesn't help anybody. And they see soil-based carbon sequestration as like very like old school. It's a nature-based solution where you need to be building for the future. And we still feel that like that is the most impactful because when you go and capture carbon from the air, it doesn't really help anybody. It doesn't really help the people that suffer. So we still feel like if you want to have like an ESG type of asset, the carbon credits you're buying should be helping the environment, should be helping social in terms of people, and it should show that like there's good governance, and that's like the carbon credits from a startup that is helping people and the environment, and that's why we're trying to position the carbon credits will be generating at. But then also, a lot of investors just don't understand that this is something that is an important thing. There's also been a very, very bad market right now for startups raising capital. And what we're building is so complicated because we have a farm application that uses AI to sort of like calculate the amount of carbon on your, I'm using satellite imagery and some other like data sources, the amount of carbon on your soil and give you a score and then talk to you in like your local language or pidgin, what you need to do to increase that score. There's the AI side. We then have a buyer platform where the corporates can come and like see different projects or different aggregated carbon credits from different farms to buy those in bulk. And then we're also thinking of maybe we should have a platform where you can buy the produce directly from the farmers if you want to decarbonize your supply chain, if you want to prove that your supply chain is green and you're buying from farms that don't deforest or like aren't like contributing to polluting the environment. So it's just a lot of many ways to go. So we need a lot of money to do this, but thankfully we've been able to run on grants, which is always one advice I would give to anybody that is trying to build something innovative is that as long as an SDG aligned, there's money out there somewhere for you to like build it. And as you continue to validate and de-risk, it becomes more interesting to investors long term. So that's pretty much been our strategy.
Incredible. I question on the so you said mindset. Um,
Yeah.
very difficult to tell people the value of doing it and to convince people of the value of nature-based carbon sequestration. You mentioned
Yeah.
money, like raising capital in Africa is tough on a good day. Not to talk of when the market is bad.
Yeah.
And I like your point about grant. So in terms of mindset, do you think that what do you how do you suggest that we can, when I say we, I mean Africans or other agri-tech founders can help change this narrative um, of this challenge of like getting people on board with carbon capture and carbon sequestration.
The funniest thing was that at the start of this year, it was a it was like already a crazy time for me because I went on that Fundy for Us show and all through the time I just kept on trying to have to explain to people that this was going to become a big deal. Then last year, last year December, I think everybody went for COP 28, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like the president himself went for COP 28. And so it went from something that was still a bit confusing to a lot of people saying like, okay, if the president himself is going to Dubai to talk about like climate change, that means there's something there. And it's not just about the climate, it's about the money, the finance. That is a lot, huge amount of financing that's coming into this space. And so what I think needs to happen more is regulations just need to be passed. I think if there's a clearer carbon tax system, not just in like because in the EU, in like America, and in a lot of places, these things are there. It's just more like Africa. But the problem is that we don't really contribute that much. So why are we? I don't know. So it's just a very strong conundrum, like because for the market to fully develop, you kind of need to tax the people that are polluting Nigeria, even if it's a little, you know. And I'm sure you agree with that, like because you're in the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
green energy space. We know like that way, if you don't receive that tax, move to green energy. But if you want to do things the old way and you want to be destroying society, then you have to pay a tax, and that has to go to the one way to feed our people, make life better,
Mm-hmm.
which is agriculture.
Yeah. I struggled. So when I went to do a master's in sustainable energy, like it's and people ask you about climate change, sometimes it's difficult to explain climate change to someone. And I found that the best way is to bring it home when you can relate this
Yeah.
big global problem to say, well, have you noticed that there's always flooding every year, more often than normal?
Mhm.
Have you ever noticed that rain doesn't actually fall as much and
This is getting hotter.
it's
Yeah.
getting hotter, you know? And when people start to feel it, they're like, oh, okay, so this is what climate change is about,
Yeah.
right? And I like your point about the opportunities, right? Climate change has a lot of opportunities in terms of job creation, in terms
Mhm.
of the innovative solutions that guys like you are building, in terms of the money that we can get. I think Africa only contributes maybe 3% of global emissions,
Yeah. Yeah.
but the impact of what we feel is huge, from drought to dissertation to yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, agreed. So one question based on looking at the solutions now, do you have any or can you share any success stories that you've witnessed from since creating Agrify? Because I imagine you're dealing with farmers very often. And just before this, podcast, we were chatting and you were basically saying, ah, man, you're just firefighting. So do you have any success stories that you'd like to share about Agrify?
Yeah, I think we had a scale down pilot because I mean I wouldn't call it a success story yet. So we got like this huge hectares of land to sort of like run a pilot where we could, plant validate the carbon captured and then take that and sell to a corporate. But then we kind of realized that trees and all this stuff, it takes so long to grow. So I think the success story was just like we figured out a way to attach carbon capture to smallholder farming. And, we had this blockchain competition by Hedera and the DLT Earth Foundation, and Agrify actually came like first, was the first of all the solutions, about maybe like 100 and something. So it's not directly started like impacting farmers yet, but the typical carbon sequestration through agroforestry or through like a plantation is very, very like project based, and it's not for the smallholder farmer. It's usually like they
Mm.
want to be like the bigger the land so they can map it out the better. But we figured out how to make that for any kind of farmer. And we hope that by the end of this month we'll start putting that in the hands of smaller farmers rather than it having to be this big project that you have to spend a lot of money to, actually roll out.
Okay. And looking at it from the perspective of a farmer, how does a typical smallholder farmer, how would they benefit from Agrify?
Yeah, so we essentially just teach you, and it's very funny because this is something that would not have been possible maybe a year or two ago, but AI has come so far that AI understands like Pidgin English and Hausa more than most of us. It's very strange.
Wow.
It's Pidgin Hausa, Yoruba more than most of us. And we were trying to understand like, because if you're gonna tell a farmer the nitrogen in your soil is too small, you need to they'll be like, what is this one even saying? Like a smallholder farmer.
Mm-hmm.
But if you tell them that like, and there's a way the AI says it's the Google Gemini that is actually like Pigeon, very, very strong. Or guy, if you want to make money, you guys plant, you guys go cut small banana, cut small waste, leave out small time for this
Mm-hmm.
place and then pack all of it and spray. So literally teaching them how to increase the carbon on the soil organic carbon. And then we can now use satellite imagery and some other data sources to then say, okay, your score is now 7 out of 10, which means that you're eligible for payout this month, this quarter. Sorry. And then we then aggregate everybody that has done well and take it to like a Shell or take it to like any kind of company that is looking to offset the carbon they've emitted that month and that quarter. And then we sell it to them. And then we pay out the farmers. We're trying to do this split where we leave some of it for the Agrify
Mm-hmm.
treasury. We pay some of that to government as levy because we know there's going to be carbon tax soon on every carbon credit that is sold in Nigeria. And
Mm-hmm.
then we pay the rest out to the farmers. So that's how we do it. So we hope that it can become a thing soon and it's just building to try to reach the future.
Wow. That's it's very not honestly, it's very innovative. Like you said, like 2 years ago, maybe this whole solution might not be possible.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, really cool, man. One day I'd like to visit you guys and see how you guys actually go through that process. God's grace. But yeah, so
definitely,
we're kind
man.
of approaching, we're coming towards the end of the podcast, and the question I have is looking into the future of Africa and the role technology can play. What role do you think technology can play in the agricultural space in Africa?
Yeah, so I think I'm a I'm a big fan of carbon sequestration, carbon capture, and I think agriculture is a very good opportunity to capture carbon, not just in like through farming, but also like decarbonizing the supply chains and also turning a lot of waste from agriculture into alternative products, you know, things like biogas, things like, taking the waste from this and turn it into that. And I feel like we have, if we can really position African agriculture as this sort of like green, organic, free from all the weird things that happen in the world or the, GMO or the modification, and we say like this is from Mother Earth, using tech, I feel like we can really, really go far and really like feed the world and just put a lot of money back into agriculture, which is the highest employer of people. And just, I think like it is really, really what we can use to really, really fight back in terms of our perception as Africans. We can't really be great without agriculture. So yeah, I think shout out to agri-tech, ag-tech, we just need to double down on that.
Like that, we can't really be great without agriculture. What advice do you have for individuals who are passionate or interested in developing their own agri agri-tech solutions?
Yeah, I think please just look past fintech. I think that's just the main thing. I feel like I don't want to say I don't really rate. Let me not say something
Ooh,
on the podcast I can't take
ooh.
back, but I think like I think there's so many problems people have, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
about how to unbank the unbanked. It's about
Mm-hmm.
how to
Mm-hmm.
put money inside those banks.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I think just and if you need help, there are lots of organizations that are looking for to fund. So I think start with you and your product team, and then have a very, very good grant writer on board as well, and
Mm,
apply, and yeah, that seems to be the way.
incredible. Thanks, Dels, for doing this. I just have one more question, which is a question we ask all our audiences. And if you listen to any of our podcasts, you probably know what this is. And the
Mhm.
question is, if you're to go anywhere in Africa for on an all expense paid trip, where would you go and why?
Definitely Marrakesh, definitely,
Marrakesh?
definitely Marrakesh, Morocco. Yes, 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 yes.
Why?
The peace of mind when I went there last, the peace of mind I felt, I just haven't felt that anywhere else. Just good weather, lovely decor, just peace, I don't know how to explain it, but I'm sure you understand what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was going to say, are
Right.
you sure you don't want to visit Abu Dhabi? Sounds
Wait.
like you will like it. I know it's not in
Oh wow,
Africa,
very
but
similar.
yeah,
Wow.
I think it's
Guy,
the
bro,
same vibe.
you have the hands now. Once Bolaji invite me, I'll come through.
No, invitation is free. Like, yeah, just turn up.
Just turn up.
Just
Okay,
turn
okay.
up.
Don't worry, I'll hold you to this, so
No wala, no wala.
okay,
But
no
yeah,
alas. Okay.
honestly, thank you so much for doing this. I think like your solution is very unique from like a lot of the ones I've heard anyway, and I think it considers not just how a startup can be profitable, but it considers the environment, the climate, the people involved in the value chain, the smallest farmers. And I really hope and I really pray that Agrify evolves to become this massive solution that's going to help millions and millions of farmers. And hopefully you make a lot of money by then. And hopefully remember that we had this conversation. So in case I call you, you should pick up.
You're already big Bolaji now, so definitely be one of our first investors. Don't worry, I'll call you soon too.
No, no, honestly, thanks, Dels, for doing this. It's been a pleasure.
All right, take care, man. It's great speaking to you.
Likewise.